Next up on our list is the Artisan of Arms, Nico. Nico, one of our favorite gunsmiths from the DMC series. So for this minifigure is mostly decal base and less as hand painting because of the tattoos, and I will explain that as I proceed forward. So to start off, the hairpiece that I used for this one is the same one that is used for Barbara Gordon from the Lego Batman movie. I had a bunch of these lying around, and I kept thinking, like, what am I gonna do with that many hairpieces? And as I was looking closer at Nico's hair design, I kind of thought that, like, this Lego hairpiece looks very similar to that, but I think I can improve upon it, make it much more accurate. So what I did was I took one of the hair pieces, added some clay on the back to match it up with more of Nico's hair, glued it on, and then added in the black paint, and this actually looks much more like Nico. So I was really proud of that. The cowl, you might be thinking that, like, that looks awfully familiar, and that is because it is the same face decal that I used for Felicity Smoke from Arrow. I thought that, like, the expression is very much the same. She already has the glasses. The only thing really missing is the freckles, and I don't think you can really see them so well because they're small. But I went through Drawcast, added those on, changed the skin tone to match it up with the rest, and this was the final result. So it came out pretty nice. Again, I used the same template that I usually use, just adding in the vests, like, on the front, and then on the back, to match it all up. And you can kind of see that I also included the tattoos. I apologize if they're small, but this was a reason why this is mainly decal based, because of those tattoos. I know for a fact that I am not skilled enough to draw realistic stuff, especially on something that is so small you could barely see it. So hang on. If we move this aside to give you guys a better look at some of the tattoos. At the same time, I didn't trust myself to draw these digitally. So what I did was I found some tattoo sheets, and I took those through Photoshop, and used the same skills that I used to make my thumbnails, and added those onto the cowls, from the left arm and the right arm. I played around with the size of them a lot, of either make them small, but not too small for where we can barely see them, but big enough to where we can see them, but they don't overlap with anything else. So I kept playing around with that, but with the results, this actually came out pretty well. I did try to add all of them on, but unfortunately, we can't really see all of them because of that size difference. This difference, like down here, for instance, of her right leg, you can kind of see that sort of gun tattoo that she has on there, but we can't fully see all of it. And again, that's because of the ink; it came out weird. But fear not. I do have it posted. I was on my DeviantArt page, so if you guys want to get a better look at that, you could check there. I did try to continue on the rose. She has, like, a rose tattoo that goes around the waist, so I tried to continue that on here. Again, it didn't come out well, but you guys can get a better look at it via Drawcast. The hardest part was probably her legs because of those 3D elements. All of this was fabric base, because I didn't want to make this, like, too clunky and too big. So she's got, like, her toolkit on her side here. Right here, it's got, like, the pliers, a screwdriver, and I'm not sure what this is, but this was a bottle that she kept in her side. I think it was supposed to be like either a cleaner or maybe something to give and to, like, reinforce it. Maybe I'm not sure what it is, but I decided to add those on. I did glue it on this leg here, as well as the rest of these parts here. So with these parts, these are actually her gloves, and I didn't want to do, like, regular gloves because minifigures don't have fingers, and I wanted to keep out that Lego element. So I decided to use, like, since I had a bunch of them printed out, I decided to use the template for the handpiece. I cut that out, traced that onto the fabric, cut the fabric out, and repeat the process twice, and then glue them on, overlaying each other like she does have in the game. game. I also cut off out of like sort of this waist part, this waistband in here for the belts. I then repositioned it for where it would connect. It would connect to her tool sash. Little sash here. It was a little bit of a pain, especially to make sure that nothing would get too stuck together. I don't think I can move the legs, but for the sake of this video, I'm not gonna risk it. But in the end, with the final results, I think this came out pretty good. And good. Not quite as challenging as like Lady was, but figuring out of how to do like some of these fabric parts, and then applying those onto the character, and especially those tattoos, digital-wise, was a challenge. But with the final results, I think this came out pretty well. And again, if you guys want to see the more detailing on these decals, you can check them all out in my DeviantArt page in the description below. Now then, let's move on to our last minifigure. Next up on the list is Kyrie from Devil May Cry 4. With this character is actually the easiest out of all of them to make when we really think about it. So for her headpiece, the decal is the same one that I used for Black Siren, because I thought that like this expression works very well for Kyrie. It matches up pretty well, so I decided let's go ahead and use that. You can kind of see like where's some glue on the face. I apologize for that. That happens a lot when making these figures. And her hairpiece. I was actually torn of how to do this hairpiece because, anyways, I knew that it was brown. And originally that's how this whole hairpiece started, like a simple dark brown, and I was gonna keep it like that. But then as I looked more and more on screenshots of Kyrie, I then realized that like, no, it's not a dark brown. It's more of like a ginger, or at least a light brown kind of coloration. So I made my own light browns to match it up to how she is in the games. It was a little bit of a challenge because like in the past, this hairpiece is stuck on the head. I apologize for that, but I did manage to put this on without damaging the headpiece, because I would have to have redone all of it again, and I hate making redos, especially for parts that get stuck. But for the torso, it is completely decal. On the front and the back. It was kind of tricky of how to do this because of some of the photos, I didn't really have a clear idea on coloration-wise, but then when I finally figured it out, I added that on, and then you can kind of see she's got, like, the necklace that Nero gave her. We can't really get too much into it because it's very small, but if you guys want to see, like, some of the detailing on this one will also be in my DeviantArt page, so you can check that out in the description below. Her arms, I do admit I wish I had gone with decal instead, because you can see, again, that cursed gold marker. It works, but it does too much paint. It does too much of it. So this came out very, very weird. Very weird. So a recommendation that if you guys are making Kyrie, I recommend you do decal and probably Photoshop like an Order of the Sword symbol. If you need to recolor it gold, I recommend you do that. But if you're making a Kyrie minifigure and you want this, if you want this to make it look more accurate, more realistic, decal is probably the best option to go with. I didn't account for that at the time, but I don't really regret it. You can't really tell, but this is supposed to be a cream-like color, here to match it up with her vest. This did say it was vanilla, but it's not exactly white. It's a little bit, it has more color in it than just white. So it does kind of blend in with the arm. That is sort of a regret, but at the same time, I think this came out pretty good. Down here is, of course, the fabric, like her fabric skirt, to match it up with the rest of her dress. Yes, I was toying with the idea of using the classic Lego dress piece that Lego likes to use for minifigures with dresses, like, I'll be right back. To give you an idea of how it'll look is this kimono minifigure that I have here. I almost thought about giving her maybe something like this and doing it all decal base, so that way it would all blend on well. But at the same time, a flaw with it is a little bit of a height difference. So I didn't really want to go ahead with that route. I kind of wanted to keep it the height all the same, so that way she would have been around like the same height, and plus, it would have given me the opportunity to practice more detailing. So I did the So with some extra pieces of one of the fabric coats, I cut it. I divided it up into pieces and then glued him on the waistline for Kyrie. Did some trimming and then added in the rest of the gold detailing. This came out a little bit better, but it's still, but I still could have improved upon it. But all in all, this was the easiest out of all of the characters to make so far in this showcase. It's not too complicated, but at the same time, some of those small detailings, like the order of the sword symbol and the detailing at the bottom of the dress, I think could have come out a little bit better. But at the same time, I think this came out good. And you know what? I think from now on, if I do dress minifigures like this, I think I'm gonna go ahead with this route because that way the minifigure stays in the same size. We can mobilize the legs more. And all in all, it looks more realistic. So, all in all, I think I'm pretty satisfied with the result. Now, before we wrap up this video up, we have two more items to showcase, and that is the Rebellion and the Devil Sword Sparta. So last up on our list is the Rebellion alien, and that first appeared in DMC 3 and is what is considered a iconic Devil May Cry weapon. Much more iconic than Devil Sword Dante. So after I did Devil Sword Dante, as I was making like Virgil and V, I thought to myself that like, what if I do some more weapons? So I decided that, you know what, Rebellion is more iconic with Dante than with Devil Sword Dante. Like, if we get Dante out here for a second. Oh, Dante, get over here. Yeah, like, if we equipped him with the Rebellion from here, it actually looks more iconic. It really matches up to how he is in the games. So I decided that, like, I'll equip him with Rebellion instead. I still have Devil Sword Dante, but I have some new plans for that sword in the future. So when making this, I don't believe required much sanding. Like, I think only a little bit, but a majority of this was like one single blade, then sculpting it up to match it out how it is in the game. I chose to match it up more with Devil May Cry 5 because it looks more detailed. You could see like some detailing on here with sort of the skull guard handle he has here. I do admit this first started off in silver, and then when I look back, I realized that like, ooh, will people notice that it's not in the right color? Yeah, they probably will. Let's go ahead and fix that for them. So I went back, redid the detailing of like the skull, and as well as the ribs down here, and then mended it all together. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but the skull I drew as like a minifigure head to match it up to make it more Lego base. I then added in the spikes it has in the eyes. I then also added in some clay at the bottom of the handle, to match up sort of that spiky guard it has. And all in all, this came out pretty good. So again, with Rebellion, and this actually came out as a pretty good sword. It's showing that my skills of making custom swords are actually improving. So I'm really satisfied with how this came out. And when looking at this with Dante, I think this is much better than expected. Much better than I expected of how this came out. So I'm really proud of how this went. Now, with our last sword is Devil Sword Sparta. I showed you guys, and you guys ended up in, was it my update video? Yeah, I think it was my update video that I did Devil Sword Sparta. And this one is probably one of the biggest swords that I've made. I do have a tendency of making stuff a lot bigger than I intended. And like, if you see on the thumbnail, Trisha's holding this thing and probably thinking that like, oh, it's about the same size. Make it smaller. Nope. It's not even. Like, hang on. If we get Trish here for a second to do a size comparison, you can see the sword is a lot larger than beforehand. And the base that I did for this is a pole. A pole. I am not sure where it's from. I think it's from Mega Bloks or something, but it's sort of like a pole used to hold flags. I used that as a template, cut off part of it, and then with the rest of it, I sculpted. I covered it in clay to make sort of that sort of spine it has here, and then added in the blades that I did sand off a lot of it to make it a bit more smooth. I then added in some of the detailing, like some of these gemstones on here, the sword handle here, here on like the front and back. It was actually kind of easy to do this because the two sides, I had to double check this a couple of times, but the two sides are actually different. So this side, it only has one red gem, and the other side has the red gem, but also two small green gems. So this was actually kind of easy to do, so that way it would give me one side to focus on and not try to make it even with the other side, because that has always been a problem. It has been a problem on making the other side even. I then added in like some of these small bone parts here to match it up with like the rest of the spine on the back. I believe this part here is supposed to be a skull head. Supposed to be a skull of an animal or something. I didn't really get a good idea of what it looks like, but I did know that it was bone, so I added that here for the sword guard, for the sword handle. And in the end, I do admit I wish this had come out smaller than it came out in the end. And I almost thought about maybe using I keep forgetting their names, but I think they're called diamond mites. I keep forgetting what they're called, but they're almost like minifigures, but they're not. I considered about maybe using the double sword Sparta that was equipped with Trish, but it wasn't as detailed as it is in DMC5. And also, that is not the LEGO Arts route. We do most of our weapons completely clay-based and everything. Plus, it gave you the opportunity to try making double sword Sparta. Arta. So I wish this had come in smaller, but in the end, with the final results, I think this came out pretty nice. Wish this was smaller, but all in all, this actually came out pretty nicely done. So let's go ahead and wrap the showcase up and begin talking about some stuff for the future. And that does it for this episode of LEGO Arts. I hope you guys enjoyed this showcase. Okay, so all in all with these characters, I honestly thought I wouldn't be doing any more Devil May Cry characters. Like, after Dante and Nero, I thought that'd be it. I wouldn't do any more. But then after replaying DMC5, I decided to I want to do more characters now. Let's see what we can do. So, in the end, with the final results, I'm glad that I chose that route, because these minifigures, aside from the obstacles that I mentioned throughout this video, with the final results, I'm pretty satisfied with it. Yet, I also have Dante and Nero here to showcase like the whole DMC crew here that we have here. So, for any minifigures on the future on the DMC series, I have plans to do one more, and it will involve Double Sword Dante. That showcase probably will come in for a while, because it's gonna be a lot more hand painting work than all the other ones. Won't spoil too much, but it will take a while for me to do all of it. Now that DMC5 is done, like Wave 2 is now complete, I can now focus on some of the other minifigures. I've mentioned that I'm gonna do Showdown Bandit again. I finally figured out who I'm gonna build. So I am gonna do the Undertaker. I think her name is Patty. I didn't come across this character on my playthroughs, but it's another main character from Showdown Bandit. The banker, and then the doctor. I know he has another name, but I just remember he repairs our strings. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on those guys. I also have plans to do one more CW showcase for the Crisis of Infinite Earths. Infinite Earths event coming up soon. I'm not sure when that's coming in, but I promise you guys that when I finally figure it all out, I'll be sure to get that showcase up and running as soon as possible. And yeah, I'm gonna try to get back into the flow of things of doing more minifigures for you guys in the future. And if you guys want to check out like some of my other Devil May Cry content, like Devil May Cry 5, the showcase where I did Dante and Nero, or if you guys now want to keep up with my new Devil May Cry 4 for special edition Let's Plays, you can check all of those out on my channel. And if you want to see my other LEGO art showcases like Detroit Become Human, God of War, Kingdom Hearts, Bendy, all of those videos, you can check them all out in my LEGO Arts playlist. So anyways, if you guys want to see more videos like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications. It really helps us work on this place, LEGO projects, and make it have some fun. So anywho, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that like button, comment below what you think, share it with your friends, subscribe to the video, follow me on Twitch. Again, here's off of the road. Woo! Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time. What do you guys, Moonrises?